For those who are joining us for the first time, we are Bettermore. Bettermore was previously known as Tribe Community Platform, and we rebranded in 2022 December. So at Bettermore, what we do is that we bring in different customer engagement tools like forums, discussions, ideation, Q&A, help center, events, resource center into one centralized place so that you can streamline your customer experience and improve your customer relationships. While we're helping our customers build communities, we're also building our own community, and that community can be accessed through bettermore.com/hub. All the previous webinar recordings can be accessed in this space.
Awesome. Thanks, Pratish. About me, I started as an Etsy seller really early on when Etsy launched and ended up gathering other Etsy sellers where I lived. And we worked together to host craft shows and share skills and have meetups. And Etsy noticed that I was doing all this organizing. I loved the brand. I loved Etsy. I loved what it allowed me to do. And I wanted other people in my community to be able to jump in on this. So Etsy hired me. So I was the 12th employee at Etsy, building community education programs. So how do we learn from each other, since the Etsy team was very small, growing super fast, and there's no way we could teach every single person how to sell on Etsy. I mean, at that time, people were using digital cameras and uploading the photos and trying to edit the photos and just trying to learn how to sell things online. I mean, that time it was eBay where most people sold items. So it was a whole new set of skills that we had to teach millions of people, and there was no way we could do it on our own. So I did that for 6 years, running community education. After that, I went to BarkBox. If any of you are in the US, know about that. So that's a monthly subscription of dog toys and goods. And so I ran customer service at BarkBox. My other passion is rescue animals. So customer service was awesome because I saw that they had all these tools to understand conversations. Which might be interesting to Better Mode, where you're building tools around conversations. So that really inspired me to get into like metrics and data and surveys and deeply understand conversations with other tools. And I worked for Airbnb. I've worked with Patreon. I worked with Lyft on various projects and programs, from Lyft's advisory council to summits at Airbnb, events held all over the world for Airbnb. I do a lot of communication work. How are we talking to our community? How are we listening to our community? So yeah, just done a bunch of stuff in this world. And I should tell you now, I'm actually transitioning out of working in tech and in community. I start grad school in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be an art therapist. So I am totally moving from this huge world of connections and support to one-on-one support. So that'll be my next journey, but I'm still here, happy to coach and support community builders in this space who are always, Max and I have had so many conversations, and I love community people. I love community builders. We are just cut from the same cloth, so I'm always here to support.
Well, that's awesome. Best wishes from our side. So to get started now, I believe we can start with the questions. So the first question that we had is about any kind of aha moment that you had in your experience while building communities. So if you could share that.
Yeah, lots of them, but I think the first aha moment, and many community managers might hit this, is you start by thinking, okay, how am I going to serve this group of people? How am I going to create programming for them? How am I going to create events for them? How am I going to create blog posts for them? What am I going to email them? And I think the aha moments comes when you realize what a community is. And a community is a web of bonds between people. Those bonds are built from trust and care. So you're shifting from one to many. I'm serving this group, and they're all learning together as a group to, wow, what actually happens if I'm holding and creating the space and they are talking to each other? and building connections with each other and supporting each other and testing things out together and reporting back to each other and not to me. That's when it becomes scalable. That's when it becomes a movement, and that's when it becomes a brand. That's where it goes beyond just me sitting here pumping out blog posts.
Right.
So that was my biggest and most impactful aha moment around community building that happened early on.
So the next question is more about any unique challenges that you have faced. Plus, I really like this second part of this question. What kind of differences you encountered while building community for marketplace brand versus any other brand?
Yeah, I think the marketplace brands I've worked with, let's say Patreon, Airbnb, Lyft, Etsy, your community members' livelihoods are tied to the brand, right? And tied to the community. So there's an extra level of care and empathy that I think you need to have in a marketplace, because that person is there probably with a service or an offering that's really precious to them and important to them. So I think if you are working in these kind of communities, you learn a lot about communication, about conflict resolution, about listening and creating feedback loops. So, of course, it's important that when you are a brand and you're selling something, you have a community around it, that you have great customer service, but there's like another level of like complexity when you have a marketplace community.
While I'm going to the next question, just a reminder that you can always add your questions through the Q&A tool that we have in Zoom. Okay, so moving to the next question. Has there been any kind of instances where the inputs that we have gathered from the community has sort of changed or altered the brand's product or service? If any experience we had, if you could share that.
Yeah. Man, that really is at the heart of this work for me. And I don't think every role has this obsession, or everyone in this role has this obsession, but I have this deep obsession with technology serving humans. So when I run a community, I don't want to just be, hey, the brand paid for this container. I really want it to feel like one community. So if we're going to have conversations, how are those conversations escalated to leadership? How are we bringing leadership into the room, into the community, so they could see the power of this thing and actually hear from people? And as you scale a business, it's pretty easy early on to like, oh, we do all this user research and we talk to everyone new who signs up. But like, as you get to 1 million people, like, are you really listening? Are you really connecting? So, wow, there's so much I've done. I ran the Lyft advisory council. So that's Lyft's only community program, and that's a group of drivers that come together and give feedback. They'll also show drivers updates in policy or in the product or the app and get feedback from drivers. That was a really interesting experience, really worked that muscle of creating feedback loops and trying to figure out how to make it impact internally at a company. And that's like, I mean, as community builders, we learn, oh, we're not just good at creating and managing conversations. We have to be good at internal marketing. We have to be good at surveys and creating decks and communicating out the needs of the community. So that really built those muscles at Lyft. I guess how I look at it is just when I come on board to a company, I make it really clear that we're one community, that I'm not building this in a silo, that we all need to feel connected and the community needs to feel connected with the team. And I build my programs based on that. I mean, I built a summit series, and a huge part of that strategy was that I was going to get as many Airbnb team members to run these summits. So we're not hiring an outside event company. Like, you're going to be there helping serve coffee. You're going to be there checking people in. You're going to be running a workshop on how search works on Airbnb. That was super powerful. So I'm just always looking for ways to help us feel like one team. And you just bring people together we learn this as community builders. You bring people together, they will influence each other, and that will influence the product. So that's how I look at it.
Right. Yeah. Feedback is such a key component to the community.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have another question from Simran, who is bootstrapping a marketplace right now. It seems like early days. So the question is, what's the first and most important thing that you do to provide community or programming for affiliates so they get excited about helping us grow the brand?
Oh, okay. This is a tough one for me. I'm going to be honest. I don't really believe in referral programs with community members. I think community happens when you come over the threshold. You've got your marketing team that's marketing the brand and bringing people in. You have product who's making sure that onboarding makes sense and that new users are happy. You have customer support that's going to be right there giving people the support they need to like really love the product. And then we're going to push them into this threshold over into community. And so I think a community manager's job is to make sure that our current customers are happy and getting connected to each other and supporting each other. That to me is the most powerful use of community. So I think referrals happen naturally if somebody loves a brand and is really clear on what the value they're getting from the brand. They love community and they're really clear about who needs to be in the community. They're going to be begging their friends who make sense to come into the community. And you can do small things like give them invites. Like, hey, everyone's going to get 5 invites over the next month to bring someone in who they think really fits. You can do little things like that, but that's not going to be exponential growth. I have a lot to say on this topic. So that's one part of it. Another part of it is, I think often we come at community from a brand, from leadership saying, what can community do for the brand? Let's see if it can do A to Z. We got, all these different things we think community might be able to do for us. Let's throw it at the wall and see what happens. Well, your community is going to start to not trust you. Why are you coming to me to bring you customers? That it just kind of will start to break the trust. And the other thing is, it's actually not a smart business decision sometimes to have community meet a need where marketing can meet it with less resources and much less inexpensive ways. And you have a sales team that are experts at bringing people in. Take the resourcing and investment you would have put into trying to make that happen with community, throw it at the experts, and you'll have exponential growth. It's really hard for community teams to be like, we can't do that, because I think we're always trying to prove that community is valuable. But believe in the work that you do and the purpose that it serves and where it fits in the organization, and allow other teams with expertise to bring people into the company. I mean, I'm sure there are people who have created referral programs for communities that work, that grow exponentially. I just have seen too many community members be given this task and quit, become disillusioned. The community sentiment drops, the community manager's sentiment drops, the community moderator's sentiment drops, and then leadership goes, community doesn't work. No, you're trying to fit something in the community that doesn't make sense. Community works, and it can give you exponential growth if you do it right and you care about the community first before you care about, oh God, we have this need that the company needs to meet and we have a team here and maybe they can do it. So hot take from me on referral programs.
Right. Yeah, I believe that is really insightful. So, I mean, we have also seen a lot of questions around that, using the community as a way to bring in new people. So what essentially you are saying is that leave the task of bringing new people or customers to your product to marketing and sales team. The customer support team is there to make them happy, or the customer success team is there. But you, as community managers, you act as facilitators who would amplify that experience, and then they would be willingly bringing their network into the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's cool about community is they'll bring the right people because they'll be like, I'm in this community. I understand that all these other people share this experience or share this expertise or share this value. I've gone to a conference and I've met this person who I know is going to love being here. So it's going to be the perfect person to bring in. They will do it organically if they're having a great experience. Yeah. I mean, I've been part of a community called Dreamers and Doers. You've got to pay a couple grand to get in every year. And if I meet a woman who runs a business and is having a hard time and doesn't have any other connections, I'm like, you need to go drop 2 grand and join this community. And I've probably told that to about 50 people. So no one's created a program for me. I'm not getting any kickbacks.
Okay, so moving to the next question. This question is from Michelle. I'm managing a community where we have 2 separate products. Customers of each product don't really need to have, they don't need to know what's happening with the other product. And we manage this product in separate spaces within the community platform.
Yeah.
The common background is that they have same kind of industry connection. And they're having difficulty giving each area of the community equal amount of attention. So the question is, do you think this community approach is viable with right community management and content process in place, or are they trying to do too much within one community?
Usually when people ask me the question, am I trying to do too much? They know they're trying to do too much. The answer is you're doing too much. Also, we're always doing too much as community managers. I'm sure people in this room will agree. We're always doing a little bit too much. So I think scale back and perfect community for one of these groups. I would ask this person, if you really think these are the same community members and that they should be joined, do they have the same motivations? Do they have the same problems? If it's 2 different products, I'm going to assume that they are actually 2 different groups of people because the products are meeting a need, are helping them with some kind of challenge. So I am wondering, I guess I don't know enough, but I am wondering if you're putting 2 niche communities together and it's not working and you're ending up being more easily serving half of the community. That's sort of my gut. I think with building communities, it's good to start niche. So start as small as possible and figure it out with that core group. And from there, you'll understand better how you're going to grow and bring in another niche into that group, or do you have them in a separate container? So I would try to start small and focus yourself. I think where we get stuck is like, oh, but we want to be big. Like we want to have big numbers. We want to like serve every user. And then we're like, shoot, our results aren't big, right? Our efforts are big. Our results are small. If you have a smaller group, same amount of effort, your results are going to be bigger. And you just kind of have to trust that because you're focused, your niche, you're understanding their motivations and you're serving their really unique needs. And they're not going to go to Reddit, right? There's so many communities online where you can get support. So if you're not niche enough, people will just be like, well, this is niche over here. These people in this Reddit community or this Discord actually are the people I need to be with. So that's my perspective on that.
Right. Okay, so we have discussed this previously, which is about member referral programs, but not sure if you want to shed more light into it. It's essentially, the question essentially asks if you have any insights or tips for building member referral programs.
Oh, maybe I answered the other question when I was talking about referrals. Did I do that? Yeah, I said a lot about referrals. I think the biggest thing you could do is make it like, hey, we only invite 100 people every month. We really want the best of the industry here. Here are 5 invites to give to your community outside. You don't need to incentivize it, actually. You just need to make it feel special. I think that's my biggest tip for referrals.
Okay, so moving to the next question. how do you identify the factors or causes for stagnation? I believe it's mostly the question mostly talks about community engagement.
Yeah. Talking to your community. That's the best thing you can do. Metrics, surveys are okay, but I really would try to talk to people who are active in the community, people who are slowed down their activity, and people who have churned and left the community. Try to get on a call with them. Try to get on a 15-minute call. It doesn't have to be long, and ask them a few questions. Why did you join the community? What motivated you? Who did you want to meet? And then what happened when you were in the community? Do we meet your expectations? Was there something missing? Why did you leave? Where did you go? What are you doing now? Who are you talking to now? And all that's going to tell you exactly what's going on. And yeah, sometimes you need to talk to 20 people. Sometimes you talk to 5 people and you're like, oh, this is such a common theme. I get it. I know exactly what we need to get people to stick around.
The next question is from Sylvia. How do you encourage and motivate your community team, including moderators, to keep the community engaged?
I think it's pretty similar. You need to understand what their motivations are. Why do they want to be a moderator? Do they want more respect for the community? They want to be closer to the team? Do they want to influence the product? Do they want to feel helpful? What motivates them? Is the role meeting those needs? What makes them feel recognized? Are they being recognized for their work? And then I think one thing I think we skip most often is understanding that people always want a next level to go to. So I see a lot of community programs where it's like, okay, we have mods, we have moderators. That's awesome. Where are they building up to? Where do they want to go next? Do they want to be on a committee? Like, hey, if you've been a moderator for a year, now you join the committee where you're helping make the decisions on how the program is formed and how it runs. Like, who wants to be a moderator at level B for multiple years? Like, I want to feel like I'm stepping up a notch. You can even do, I'm a senior moderator now, and I have a different badge, and I have another level of responsibility. I join this meeting every 3 months now. Like, these can be like big program jumps, or these can be like little milestones that they're going to meet. Not asking too much of them. I think often, even if we don't, so not asking too much of them and seeing when they're doing too much. I see some moderators just get on a sort of addiction train where they're like, I'm going to burn myself out because this like meets a need for me, and no one's stepping in to say, hey, let's make sure that you like are doing too much. We want to support you. Like, how can we help you slow down and like get you on a project or something that's not like responding to every single member? Understanding the motivations and like the energy levels and the resourcing of your moderators and giving them somewhere to go when they do start to feel a little bored or like they're not being valued as much, or it's usually because they're just kind of stagnant and don't have anywhere to go.
So that means keep a balance between talking too much and not talking at all. But talk to customers, talk to members, talk to your team, figure out what they want essentially, right?
Yeah.
So the next question is from Laura. The question is, our product is our community, our farmer community.
Mm-hmm.
So we are a free digital knowledge sharing community platform for small scale farmers, gearing up for our official Caribbean launch very soon. My first question is this: how do you deal with onboarding for users with lower digital literacy issues?
Yeah.
And secondly, what are the best ways to launch a digital community? What launch events are best to ensure signups? Should there be specific locations designated as the launch location?
Yeah. This could be a case of like, are you meeting the needs of the community, or are you creating a solution that works for you? So I'm thinking The question is, these people, like, they're farmers, they're outdoors, they're doing a lot of work physically in the world. I want them to be online in my community chatting. You're giving yourself something hard to do. And if you just take a step back and go, what is community? Community is building a web of people who are connected to each other that can support each other. We do this under a brand umbrella so that they just associate all these amazing connections in this community with this brand. And they're going to be loyal to the brand because they've made all these connections. So I'm thinking that you want to meet them where they're at with in-person meetups. And if you can't go there, you just start calling and talking to people who would be great members, a great fit for your community, and see which of them are inspired by your vision and your mission and might want to gather some people together and host a meetup. And you might pay for the meetup, but they'll be the host. I think you need to consider that your strategy might not be digital or might start in person, and you slowly can work towards digital. So maybe you have in-person meetups. At the end of the meetup, you ask the host, okay, I'm going to show you the app so that after this meetup, we can continue this conversation. I'm going to start a thread right now. I'm going to show you that I'm starting a thread. So when any of you have ideas this week on this topic, like, let's all download the app together. Like, this week you can go in and add a comment. And then you'll see they might pick it up a little bit. Oh, the next meetup we're going to have at the end, we'll do the same thing. So it's hard to get someone who's not a digital native to be a digital native just for you. I guess that's my advice.
Right. Okay, so next question is something that we have also heard a lot of time. It's from Michelle. The question says, I'm currently a team of one. So what would be your recommendation for advocating growth for myself and the growth of the community within the organization? Really, many community managers might be facing that. I've seen a lot of companies having one community manager running the entire community program.
Yeah. Wow, there's just so many things to say, so many pieces that need to go into this puzzle. One, I think you have to really understand the work that goes into community and figure out how to translate that to your leadership teams. So your leadership might be really, like, you might be on a brand marketing team and they're really inspired by stories and hearing experiences. So then you're going to talk about all the conversations you had to manage, and you're going to give them a few examples, and you're going to say, and I had 20 of those this week, right? Or you might be reporting to a product team, and maybe you're going to go, okay, we had 400 threads this week. I spent 10% of my time doing X. I spent 10% of my time doing Y. You really need to show, not just tell and not just complain, but like show your leadership team what work goes into building this community. And you also need to not be afraid of that and not be ashamed of that. And that's just human work, and it takes time, and this is the time it takes. You're going to get pushed to say, we're going to add 10,000 members next week to the community. What you're going to show, hey, this is the time it takes to manage this community that is already 10,000 members. You're going to add 10,000 members. I need to know what I need to stop doing to serve the next 10,000 members. Help me prioritize and make that decision based on what your goals are right now. And they're going to back up and be like, what do you mean? I can't just add 10,000 members to the community? And you can go back to your work. This is what it takes to run the community at this point. Yes, it's scalable. We can work on things like better onboarding, adding moderators, but that all also takes time. So how am I prioritizing my work to increase the community, the size of the community? If you are confident, you know what you're doing, you know what goes into it, be proactive, just be confident, show up with confidence. That you know what it takes to run a good community. You need more resources if we want to grow. We need more resources if we want to add another program. It's really a hard thing to do in tech companies, if you're working for tech companies or fast-growing startup companies, because they're used to launching products and features. And they're like, we launched a product, we launched a feature, it's done. We don't have to go back and support that. But you have to support every member, and adding a new member doesn't mean that those other members go away. So you have to become an internal marketer. What is this community? What does it take to run this community? What happens when you pull resources away? Sentiment drops, conversations drop. We can't have as many webinars. I can't run reports. You have to be really clear of what it takes to be in that role and communicate it. And when you get pushed, you have to push back a little bit and ask for resources to make that happen. That's what other teams do. Someone goes to a marketing team and says, we need to run a new campaign. All right, what are our resources? What's our budget? Who's going to work on it? Where's that coming from? So I think often we get, we want to prove our value so much because community is kind of hard to understand. But you go in that conversation with confidence that you are valuable, the community is valuable, it takes resourcing, and be clear and direct with what you need.
Hey, thanks for sharing that. So next question from Lynn. We're enrolling our community through an enterprise strategy. So we'll be receiving a huge influx of new members into our community. Any thoughts on how to engage a lot of people at once? We're talking more than 2,000 members within a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I just said, right?
Yeah. Very much connected to the previous question, yeah.
Right. Hey, we're going to throw a whole bucket of people on you. Go do it. So I don't know what the resources are. I might ask if we could trickle in these community members and try to help people understand that I don't know how many members are now. Did she say how many members there are now? Like, let's say there's...
The question is more about we're enrolling our community through an enterprise strategy. I believe there's most likely they're bringing in new members to the newly launched community. It seems like that.
If it's a community of 20,000 people, you've done a really good job of all those 20,000 people understanding what the values are, what the rituals are, what types of conversations we have, and you throw 2,000 people in, you're going to be okay because you're going to have the support of the community to help get those people introducing themselves. When they start a conversation, they can help shape it. Of course, you'd want to let the community know in advance. I think that could actually be really fun. This is going to be a celebratory moment. Our community has become so strong and so awesome that we're inviting 2,000 more people in, and you guys are going to be the welcoming committee. They're coming in on this date. Get prepared. Let's all be here to welcome them. Very exciting. That could be awesome. If you have 2,000 people and you're adding 2,000 people, it's going to change the entire community. It's going to put your community on the back foot. They're going to be a little bit worried. They're not going to understand if those people are going to know our rituals and stuff. So I might ask, the strategy might be to trickle them in and say, like, we're going to be adding 200 people every week for the next however long it takes. And we're going to be the welcoming committee, and we're going to do this every Friday morning, and it's going to be exciting. And then strategy for a big group of people, I'd have a bunch of online webinars that welcome them. You might have one every day for a week. At Etsy, we used to have 3 to 4 webinars a week. They were just open Q&As. We had new people come in. We got to answer their questions. We got to meet them face to face. They got to meet other members face to face. Some of our most experienced Etsy sellers would join every single one, which cracked me up. I'm like, what are you doing here? You have, but they just love the community and they loved welcoming people in. So that's a good way to bring people in and make them feel at home, answer their questions, start off on the right foot, set a good experience and example. So, yeah, it really depends. Email me. Maybe I'll have more ideas if I know more details.
The next question is again from Simran. So how do you help your users create a habit of logging into a community without having a mobile app?
Yeah.
And our users engage once they log into the community, but most of them are in the habit of logging into Facebook, and we're having trouble getting them to log into the brand community frequently.
One hack that I told people to do before is make your Facebook group your waiting room for your community. So it's where people can mill about and chit chat about everything. But the good stuff happens in this special private place. Not everybody's allowed. It's a special place. You have to be X to get in. Maybe you have to be so active on Facebook. Maybe you have to be a certain level of a customer. Maybe you have had to host a meetup. I don't know. But like make something special about that place. And so you'll be continue your comm strategy will be I'm posting to Facebook every day, something special that's happening in our group over here and moving them to the group until that pattern is just instinctual. I mean, using Facebook as a tool instead of a competitor will be the way you'll want to look at this thing. And then just in your private community, that's where you drop resources, right? You don't send a link. You don't have a splash page, or you don't send it through email. You have it available in your community. So that'll get people coming over to access specific things. Maybe you can't even RSVP for events unless you're in the community and get the link there. Maybe you can't even join the Zoom unless you log into the community to get the Zoom link. So you're just trying to think of different things, different little pieces of cheese to get the mouse through the maze into the community.
Okay, so the next question is from Isabel. How do you define your community strategy just 3 months into the role? Community strategy metrics.
Oh, the metrics. Well, I think it depends on what business need your community is serving. There's so many ways to measure community. I think we get we kind of get fixated on vanity metrics, which are like how many people have signed up for the community, how many people are chatting, how many messages are sent today. That doesn't show us if people are like, here's an example. Wow, it looks amazing. There's so many conversations happening in our community last week. It went up 300%. Oh, well, it went up 300% because our site went down and everyone was pissed and they didn't know where to go. And so they all started chatting in the community. Like, okay. We should always monitor those things, but those are going to give us like, whoa, went up 300%. I'm going to go figure out why. No, I'm not using that metric to understand the success of the community. So look at what business need your community is meeting. Is it brand loyalty? If it is, you're going to want to make sure that you're sending surveys to the people in the community and you're understanding, do they feel more loyal to the brand 3 months into being in the community? That's the metric we're going to focus on. We have all these other metrics to understand trends, but to understand success, we're going to look at this metric. That way, when someone comes to you and says, we're going to add 2,000 people to the community, you're going to go, this is our metric that we're looking at, brand loyalty. How does adding 2,000 members help us with brand loyalty? Or this is our metric, helping support team reduce the number of emails they get. How does 2,000 members help that? If they all come in and flood with questions and the community can't respond to them, we're not going to be able to meet that need. So that'll really help you drive and shape your strategy if you're looking at the right metrics to understand success. Also, 3 months in, you should be just building those trends, right? How many people are joining? How many people are churning? How many people are chatting? How many private conversations are happening? What's the sentiment of our community members because we send a survey. Those are just trends, right? I just want to be clear. Like, you should have that all set up. You should understand it so that if there are any spikes or dips, you can look and see what's happening. But be careful with what you're tracking and what you're reporting. And make sure when you're doing your report, you're like, here's our metric for success. This is what we're looking at. Here's some trends we're seeing, and here's why.
So the next question is, how do we get members who do not work for our company to engage with each other? I believe it's more about mainly peer-to-peer engagement. Any tips or tricks?
So in your community, how do you get the community members to engage with each other?
Yeah, I believe it's about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's a few things. Understand their motivation for joining. What conversations do they want to be having? Sometimes you need to facilitate those conversations first, and by asking the right questions, and then have them respond and have a chat under your prompted question, especially if it's a new community. You'll have to start the conversations. You're going to want to reward anyone who creates a conversation and connections are made under that. Like, chime in. Thank you. This is an awesome question. I'm so grateful that you took the time to ask this. Like, that's the kind of reward I'm talking about. A lot of online meetups. If you can do in-person meetups, I'm telling you, events are magical for building those initial bonds between people in the community. Have a lot of breakout sessions, people meeting each other. I've now met you. Like, Pritish, if you and I were in a community, we've spent this time together, we've had these conversations, I'm going to know exactly what I can go to you for in the community and ask and be like, oh, you would know the answer to this, or you would know someone I should talk to around this, because we had a conversation face to face and we so quickly got to understand each other. So I'm just such a huge proponent of online events, in-person events, and trying to facilitate groups, small groups. It's so easy. These events are so easy. You come up with 3 to 4 questions, prompts. You put people in small groups. They talk about it. You bring them back and say, what happened in your small groups? And they all didn't even want those groups to end because they were chatting. And you put them in a group again. They build all these connections and have all these conversations. And then you close your laptop and the next day they're having chats in your online community. So.
Right. Yeah. So what we have seen is that as community managers try to engage with members, they get to know their skills, their expertise, their interest based on whatever conversation that they had.
Yeah.
And once you see something, a content piece that is posted in the community, which might interest the other person, you just mention them or tag them.
Yeah.
Even there are some automated systems that we are actually currently building out that it would suggest people who have interest in that particular area, and then you can just mention them and tag them and they would engage them.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, having, if you don't have the tools yet, I've built spreadsheets where I'll have every single community member and I'll start to go, this is a mom, lives in California, has a dog, current challenge, I'll just pick up things and put them in the spreadsheet, and then it's hard to manage all of it. But then you can just start to be like, you should talk to you, yeah.
The next question is also kind of tied to this. So it's about, have you used any kind of unconventional or unique strategy to facilitate this peer-to-peer engagement?
Wow, I think it depends on your community. I've seen people do things like exchange phone numbers and have phone calls. Giving people... I think the biggest thing is giving people permission. I don't think it has to be unique or special. It could actually... Unique could be that it's so simple. Like, hey, have you thought about having a coffee with this person? Because they're in your city and you guys really share a lot of common experiences. Why don't you go for coffee? Just suggesting it. I mean, we're all deeply lonely and deeply disconnected. And I feel like humanity is just like itching to meet someone who's like us and who might understand us. And if you can facilitate that connection by just suggesting it, that's so powerful. So you don't have to go big. You don't have to come up with this wild strategy and like it takes all these resources. You could just be a really good party host that's all day long connecting people. And you're going to build such a special, thriving community. People will start to do the behavior that you're doing. Then they're going to be like, oh, so that this person, you should be that person. So you can just be the party host that inspires others to be good party hosts. I will, because I know people I give advice based on what I think works, but sometimes people just want like flashy experiences that I've had. So the biggest thing that I think worked so well at Etsy was we launched something on Etsy's birthday called Etsy Craft Party. And we were given $1,000 or something ridiculous to be like, run an Etsy Craft Party in Brooklyn where our office was, and you can invite all the New York Etsy sellers and we'll give you $1,000 and you can buy some wine and we can all just hang out and it'll be really fun. And as a team, we were like, that just feels unfair. I mean, we have sellers in Paris, we have sellers in Sydney, we have sellers in Bangkok, and like we have sellers in Mexico City, and like it just feels unfair to have a hipster party in Brooklyn. So we created a really cool strategy where we told the community, create an Etsy craft party in your town, and if you get 30 people to RSVP, we're going to send you a box of swag. So that's what we spent our money on. And we had 100 Etsy craft parties all on the same day, all over the world. And the next year we had 5,000. And the next year we had even more. So we were thinking beyond what we could do with this amount of money. We really that's a unique challenge I've had, was have these international communities. But we really were trying to meet the needs of the community in a way that they could participate and they could step up, and we could also reward them for that behavior.
Right. So empower your team, but also more importantly, empower your community members as well.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this question has been popping up a lot lately. How do you avoid burnout of the managers and possibility of leaving soon after?
It's a tough one. I think what I've done in the past is just try to, this will just sound so common to what I've been saying, but even with my team members, I'm like, what motivates you? Like, you actually really love product. Like, you love influencing product and getting feedback from community members. So I'm going to have you do your community manager role where you're managing conversations 60% of the time, and 20% of the time I'm going to have you work with someone on the product team to gather feedback and learn how to create a deck that really shows what's going on in the community, what the community feedback is, and like create feedback loops. Like, I'm going to give you a smaller project that's going to keep you inspired and keep you engaged and excited about coming to work every day. And then the other 20% is like growth, like what are the things that are kind of hard for you in this role? And like, what can we be doing to make you feel more confident in those areas? Like, are you taking a course? Are you going to spend time having one-on-one calls with other community managers and other companies that are good at that? That might not even be 20%. It might be 10% of the time. But again, it's about not focusing on the needles that I need to push, but like deeply understanding the human beings that I'm around, what inspires them, what motivates them, and wanting to meet their needs and like have them be successful in this role. I think what's hard is like, yeah, they're not going to respond to more and more threads week over week, but I'm not going to be onboarding a whole new community manager every 6 months. I'm going to have this person invested. I'm going to have them growing and serving the needs of the brand for much longer. So sometimes it's more about these like long-term goals than short-term goals.
So we're almost at time, but I have just one last question, which is, can you share a time when you had to pivot your community building strategy or community program midway through its implementation, and what triggered this change, and how did it turn out?
So many times. Um, I'm trying to think of a good one. I mean, there's been a lot of times, I think you'll find this if you're working in tech or startups, where you'll have a big product pivot or a big event happen like COVID, and you're chucking along, running your community, doing meetups, managing conversations, and then all of a sudden it's like all hands on deck. We are turning this feature off. We are pivoting the entire product. We have COVID, and our Lyft drivers don't know if they can drive. They don't have access to hand sanitizer or cleaning products. They don't have masks. Like, you're in community and you're just like, oh my God, what do I do at this moment? So man, I just come back to meeting the needs of the human beings that I'm serving. You know, for Lyft, when this happened, we just completely, when COVID happened, I was just like, whatever we were building does not matter. We have to meet the needs of the Lyft drivers right now, and how can community and our team meet those needs? So we just did listening sessions. We wanted to know and help the team understand what was going on with Lyft drivers in their communities. We had a lot of elevated Lyft drivers who had access to the entire community of drivers, and they could really easily gather stories and experiences. So that's what we focused on. We're like, we need to know what's happening so we can help meet the needs of what's happening out there right now in the world. So that's all I focused on. That's all my team focused on. Gathering those stories and then repackaging them in a way that was powerful. Like, I didn't send anyone survey results. I was like, here's a video of a driver in New York who has built their own partition made of plastic. Here's what it took them to build this. Here's what it looks like. Here's them talking about it and why they were so fearful and had to build this. And I sent that video through Slack to about 12 people who are on the safety team. So you as a community manager, you're like this community psychiatrist where you're like, how do I understand what's going on with you? And how do I deliver it to you in a way that's going to make an impact?
So we don't have more questions, as well as we're almost at time. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and show you the next event that we're having. So next event will be with Max Pete, who has also joined this event. And it will be about improving community retention and ROI on July 18, 12 p.m. ET. You can access this event from our website, communitybettermore.com/resources and webinars. And that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks a lot to Danielle as well.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Those were awesome questions, really thoughtful questions. So I really appreciated this conversation.